designed for chancelleries, residencies of our ambassadors and staff quarters in our other diplomatic missions overseas.
This is an expression of political commitment not taken lightly by the host government and needed African Union. Their representation at the program speak volume of the interest attached to this special bond of relations willingly extended by President Jammeh in his statement.
I would also like to seize this opportunity to reiterate our commitment towards enhancing the strong cordial bonds of brotherhood and cooperation, which happily exist between the Republic of the Gambia and the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia in collaboration with my counterpart and brother, His Excellency Prime Minister Ato Mele Sinawi. My government will also continue to work closely with the African Union Commission for the advancement and attainment of our continental objectives.
The electoral rules forbidding the incumbent of the African Union Commission's chairperson, Zamping, from speaking did not apply so to the Ethiopian State Minister of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who ably represented his government.
Ethiopia values highly its relation with Gambia, which are built on solid foundations of shared values. The two countries are bound together to work closely to strengthen the African Union, to consolidate the African agenda, and to deal with the twin challenges of poverty and underdevelopment.
The spell from the reading of the delegation of lawmakers accompanying the president to Addis may well translate the very philosophy that gave birth to the new Gambia so admired in the outside world. With their own state-of-the-art structure taking over the horizon at the entrance of Banjul, the National Assembly members speak fairly about its development.
It should not surprise us. I mean, that's the way the guy is.
Most of the forces you have is during the APRC regime.
Definitely.
Most of the forces you hear in the Gambia, Force High School, Force University, Force Television, Force this thing, all the forces started here.
I mean, officials have a specific way of describing such, infrastructure. Some call it milestones, some call it landmark achievement, and so. What will you call it, sir?
Landmark. Because it's going to be replicated again. It's again and again. Exactly. We will replicate it again and again
to others. So you see, for us within the system, we are not surprised by these innovations. And for this particular one, I think is so impressive.
Thank you.
It's so impressive
the building itself.
Yeah, the building itself and the way it is structured.
Even the furniture.
The furniture and everything. I mean, it's great.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mamadou Tangara, and Gambia's own Assistant Secretary under Secretary General of the United Nations, Abdoulaye Janneh, place emphasis on the values of multilateral diplomacy in the promotion of the goals of security, rule of law, and free market system. For now, the Gambia's flag swings peacefully, translating its leader's vision beyond the limits of its country's boundaries. Abdou Ndiaye, GRTS.
Highlights of the inauguration of the Chancery Building will be aired on Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. While President Jammeh returned to the Gambia on Tuesday morning and was received on arrival by the usual lineup of dignitaries, which include the Vice President and Women's Affairs Minister, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Cabinet Ministers, Service Chiefs, and National Assembly members, among others. Shortly after the usual ceremonies, GRTS's Francis Mende asked the head of state for his take on the importance the 18th Ordinary Summit of Head of State and Government of the African Union attached to intra-African trade, and this was Professor Jammeh's response.
First of all, I want to thank you for welcoming me, and I want to answer to your question as to what my take is. If it weren't very important, I wouldn't have gone. That's the most important thing. Because there's no way we can eradicate poverty without intra-African trade. We cannot bring about economic integration without intra-African trade. And of course, when we want to look for Western or Northern markets of developed countries or Northern countries, who's going to take us seriously if we cannot trade amongst ourselves? And that is why despite the fact that the African continent is the major source of raw material, we are still the poorest because we are dealing in a trading mechanism where we trade as individuals instead of as a bloc or as a continent, as a result of which we are the major producers of raw materials for the industrialized North, but we are the poorest of the poor. Why? Because you go to them as individuals, they fix a price they want, which means take it or leave it. Now, when the only commodity, African commodity, whose price is not fixed by the world market is kola nut. Why? Because Westerners don't chew kola nut. But apart from kola nut, anything else, the price is fixed by the world market. Now, if you ask me, where's the World Bank, I can tell you the headquarters is in Washington, D.C. The IMF, I can tell you. But who knows where the world market is? Nobody knows. Who's the president of the World Bank? I know. Who's the president of the IMF? I know. Or the managing director of the IMF? I know. But who is even the CEO of the world market? Nobody knows. But this is such an invisible but powerful force that every year, despite Africa being the major, that produces, a continent that produces 98% of the raw material for the industrialized North, becomes poorer and poorer every year. I'll give you a typical example. If there is intra-African trade, we will be also a major consumer, because we are a major consumer for products that are produced elsewhere that are rejected for other parts of the world. They dump them in Africa. For example, we produce coffee beans and cocoa. Not so. And then import chocolate and coffee. Now you sell the raw coffee beans at maybe 50 cents per kilo, or let's say $1 per kilo. And when it is processed, all they do is just roast it, that's all. Roast it and pound it into powder, package it, and you buy 50 ounces of that for $3. 50 ounces. How many ounces, or 50 grams of it? How many grams would be in a kilogram? Do you understand? So, in a kilogram, which is 1,000, how many, divided by 50, how many would you have? How many dollars would you have for that kilo of raw, for which you sold to the West for $1? Now, if we are to if you are to trade amongst ourselves, we will also be obliged. You cannot do trade, intra-African trade, without communication, infrastructure. For some of us to go to Ethiopia, you have to go to London, or Brussels, or Paris, in order to come back to Africa. So there is no African delegation that will travel commercial. In 90% of the African delegations that go commercial would have to go to Europe, the North, and come back to Africa. But if there is intra-African trade, we will think of building roads. Then we will not have problems trading amongst ourselves. We will not have border closures. We will think of being African. In that case also, we will consume what we produce directly. But the coffee that is produced in Ivory Coast, or Guinea, or anywhere else, is taken to Europe, processed. Half is processed for Africa, the other part is processed for them. Now, you will agree with me that the mango juice, the canned mango juice that you have here, sometimes you look at the tin, it tells you that it's made in the EU. You go to anywhere in Europe, you will not find that type of mango juice or orange juice. And come June, July, August, mangoes will be rotting under mango trees in the Gambia. It's indeed ironic that in those days, our ancestors, or not even ancestors for that matter, our great-grandfathers and grandfathers When they want mango juice, they go to the mango tree, cut it, and eat 100% pure mango.